This is position number 16 on today's calendar. State of Georgia versus Carnell Stephen Davis. Mr. Davis is present in court. He's represented by counsel who's also present in court. The state is going to be represented by Ms. Williams. Ms. Williams, would you swear your witness in and present your case?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Officer Williams, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in the state versus Cardinal Davis will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your right hand. You can please state your name and where you're currently employed.
Currently employed at Riverdale Police Department. My name is Quintaria Williams.
And how long have you been employed with Riverdale Police Department?
Approximately 3.5 years.
Were you working in that capacity on December 1st, 2021?
Correct.
And on that date, did you respond to a domestic disturbance at 8044 Mustang Lane in Riverdale?
I did.
And are you aware what county that address or residence is located?
Yes, ma'am. It's in Clayton.
When you responded to the residence, did you make contact with anyone?
Not at first, no, ma'am. Myself and other officers was attempting and trying to get the subject out of the house. Approximately 3 to 5 minutes, a black male did exit the house. Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to identify that black male?
I was.
And who was that?
Mr. Carnell Davis.
And how did you identify him?
He told us his name.
All right. And what did you observe when you once you got Mr. Davis out of the residence and arrived on scene?
So basically, first I met with the victim, the child's mother, and the father around the corner from the residence. They was being irate and hysterical, I guess you can say, due to the fact that what they say Mr. Davis did to both of them. Upon speaking with Mr. Davis or whatever, he was telling me that him and his child's mother got into a verbal altercation about some incident, that he was putting her things out of the residence, and that he basically wanted her to leave the property and things to that nature.
So are you saying that the victim and Mr. Davis shared their parents of the same child?
Correct.
And Mr. Davis was putting her things out of the residence?
Correct.
Did the victim state whether or not she gave consent to Mr. Davis to throw her things out of the residence?
She did say that she did not tell him to touch her things.
Okay. And you said their parents of the same child. Was their child present?
Yes, a small juvenile child between the ages of 1 and 3, I think, or 1 and 4.
Okay.
Probably,
yes, go ahead.
I say I can't remember the exact age of the child, but it was a small juvenile.
All right. When you made contact with the victim, you said she was with her father and her child that she shared with the defendant. Did she make you aware of what transpired that day?
She did. Like I say, they got into a verbal altercation. I think it was because of a cell phone, or the victim texted her father from her phone, and said, "Come to the residence. He's trying to put his hands on." Come to that. But upon speaking with the victim, she stated that he physically pointed a assault rifle at her father, and the juvenile child while the child was in her arms during the altercation.
And were you able to recover that assault rifle?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, Miss Williams. It was located outside of the residence behind the washing machine.
Okay. The state has no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Schoolcraft?
Yes, Judge. Officer Williams, can you tell me, did you ever find out whose house it was?
Mr. Davis's parents.
I'm sorry. So Mr. Davis was a lawful resident. Was Miss Stevens a resident of the house?
Yeah, she did say she stayed there, yes.
All the time or just some of the time?
I'm not sure. She just said she stayed there with her child's father.
Okay. And the assault rifle, where did you find it?
It was located behind the washing machine inside of the residence.
Okay. And do you have any evidence, personal knowledge that the gun was ever pointed at the alleged victims?
Yes, I do.
And what evidence is that besides the statements of Miss Stevens?
It was caught on the body cam on the Ring doorbell camera footage from Mr. Davis' parents' house.
So there is a video.
Correct.
Okay. Does the
Okay.
video show that Miss Stevens or her father had a weapon themselves?
No, it do not.
Did you notice whether or not Miss Stevens or her father had a weapon?
I did not. No, sir.
Now, it was Mr. Davis's house. Miss Stevens was being put out. Okay. When did she call 911? Do you know?
So technically, she never called 911. She texted her father and told him to call 911 because Mr. Davis kept taking her cell phone.
So her father called 911.
Right, because he was concerned for his daughter's safety.
Okay. And then he came over to her house?
Right, correct.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
May Officer Williams be excused?
He may.
Thank you, Officer Williams, sir. You no longer are compelled to stay here, but you can stay to the end if that's what you desire.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Mr. Schoolcraft, are you putting on any evidence?
No, Judge.
Okay. Do we have any argument?
Just short that she was being put out of a house that she didn't belong on in, or that didn't belong to her. It was Mr. Davis's house, and it's basically her word against his. And she was being put out. I'm sure that she moved back into the house after he was arrested. And so she had motive not to tell the truth about Mr. Davis. When they came there, the gun was not out on the porch. It was behind a washing machine or in the laundry room. So the evidence, the only evidence that he ever pointed the gun, well, let's put it this way: the girl had. We don't know what the circumstances were, why he might have pointed the gun at them. They may have threatened him, but she had a reason to lie because she was being put out of the house. Now she could move back in because he wasn't going to be there. Anyway, that's what I have, Judge. We'd ask that you dismiss the charges.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, Your Honor, the state asks that you would bind over each and every count against Mr. Davis. I think Mr. Schoolcraft has misrepresented the testimony. Officer Williams stated that the residence where the incident occurred was in fact Mr. Davis's parents' house. And I believe the statute only states that a person has to maliciously interfere with the use of someone else's property and without their consent, which is what Officer Williams testified to. Additionally, the evidence has shown through testimony is evidence that the victim was in the presence of their young child when the gun was pointed at not only the victim and the young child, but her father as well, and that incident was captured on the Ring doorbell camera, which is why the state requests that you do bind over these charges. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna bind over each charge to the Superior Court of Clayton County. Unfortunately, young adults are taking on this whole thing of living together and having children and doing things all out of order. And once you allow a person to establish residence, you can't just kick the person out. You got to go through the proper steps. And testimony I heard supports every charge. So I'm going to bind those over. Mr. Davis can be sent back And that appears to end today's calendar.
I believe it does, Judge. Just double checking with the jail to see if they have any other inmates. Officer Williams, you're excused. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Ms. Schoolcraft, you can be excused also. Thank you, sir. So let's hear from the jail. Let's send Mr. Davis back. And does the jail have anyone that they expect or reasonably will believe still has a hearing here today?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. So I am taking over for another deputy that was handling today's hearing.
Okay,
He advised that there were 4 people on the calendar that needed to be seen. So I'm gonna give you the names and you will just advise on their
Okay.
status.